Hi, I'm Katie Moran, and I'm going to teach you my framework on how to hit your first 10,000 followers on Twitter. So I have a presentation that I'd love to share with you that goes through it step by step. So it's very simple and it's doable for anyone. So I'm an author, poet, advocate, creativity coach, and social entrepreneur. I coach creatives on how to transform their dreams into clear goals with an emphasis on utilizing technology and creativity for social good. So this is a 7-step framework. Find your niche, find your creative vision, develop your voice, develop your platform, share your message, engagement, and real connections. So again, I think it's so important when we grow online to grow without compromising our values. And that is something that I emphasize so much. And also to grow with purpose, to have something to say and to share with others. And to really gain those real connections. So making connections, building community, it's so important to growing. And I think so much of the time, social media has this negative reputation because people don't understand the importance of real connections and building community online. So I'll go through these step by step. So find your niche. Who do you want to reach? That is the question you're answering with this one. So some examples are communities I've been a part of and that I've grown with. The writing community, which was the main focus of when I first started growing, the poetry community, NFT community, Web3 community, and vegan community. Those are kind of like the communities that I grew with. And again, like, don't feel like you have to stick to one niche. It's so important that you give yourself space to be multidimensional and to really have a platform that shows who you are in totality, and don't think that people are gonna be turned off by that. It's something that people love to see people shine in their authentic voice and authentic nature. So internal opportunities to connect, things like Twitter Spaces for the writing community, writers lifts. So you want to be looking for internal opportunities to connect. So for the NFT community, for the Web3 community, Twitter Spaces is the place that most people are connecting. And it's so important to engage with the community there and to really push yourself to engage with people, even if you feel like you don't have self-confidence, because the confidence comes with the more you put yourself out there, and it will grow over time. And then some examples of external opportunities to connect. So Clubhouse used to be one. You can give people your Instagram. You can link to your YouTube if you have a YouTube channel. And I think the most important one, especially if you want to gain a lot of more followers, it's so important to have a link tree so that all of your links, whether you have an Amazon storefront, you have your own e-commerce business, you have your own author's website, you have your own NFT collection, it's important that you have a place to house your links. So Linktree is a free service. There's more options if you pay for it, but you get it's functional if it's even the free version. So I would just say keep that in mind, that something like Linktree can allow for you to have multiple links because you only have one link in your bio, and it's important to have a link so that people can connect with you. And also, a lot of people don't go to your bio to check out your link. So if you want someone, if you're connecting with someone, whether it's through comments or DMs, you can send them the link directly, but you could also say, oh, check out the link in my bio, or you can do a post and you can say, check out the link in my bio. Okay, so this is probably one of the most important parts. So it's find your creative vision. I run this program that has this other 7-step framework about how to find your creative vision. So it starts with dreamscaping, knowing what your life looks like in 10 years, ideally, in 5 years, ideally. Like, visualize this and ask yourself, how can I make goals that show me that this is possible? So dream goals. So what can I do today to create the future for myself that I want tomorrow, or that I want in 10 years, or that I want in 5 years, or that I want in 15 years? And then once you do that, you'll understand more what your intention is with growing online. And I think it's so important to have those big dreams so that you're willing to put in the work today, because so much of the time a lot of people feel like it's important to have small dreams so that they don't get their hopes up. But I mean, if you have small dreams because you're fearful that any dreams you have won't come true, it's really almost impossible to put in the amount of work it takes to grow and to have the confidence you need to really put your whole heart into the work that you do. And again, that is such an essential part of it. And I'll get more into that with developing your voice, because authenticity and clarity are probably the most important components of developing your voice and having a clear and consistent voice so that people know what to expect and how they can trust you. So those bigger goals, it actually motivates us, and it allows for us to connect with other people who might have better ideas or connections on how to help us with our dreams and how to make our dreams come true. Which, I mean, it sounds really audacious, but the truth is, when you put in the work, it's something that is achievable. And it really is about putting in the work. And if you are setting your sights high, then it's easier for you to motivate yourself to push yourself further. And obviously, if you're setting a goal that isn't challenging enough, then you won't grow into the person that you have to be to make your dreams come true. So the next step is your message. So getting clear on your message. What is your message? What do you want to share with people? And again, this can go back to your niche. So say you're a writer, you might have a message written to all of your books, or if you have an NFT collection that's for charity, then you might have a message that has to do with that specific charity, whether it's mental health advocacy or suicide prevention, things like that, which is something that is part of my message. And then honoring your inspiration. So knowing that just this fundamental idea that the more you put your ideas out into the world, the more inspiration you'll have. And so much of the time, there's this false narrative that if you give your best ideas away, you'll have nothing left. And the truth is, the more ideas you put out there and the more you act on your ideas, the more ideas you have and the more inspiration you have. And it just keeps flowing, and it's a beautiful process. And that's really the sacred nature of honoring your inspiration, which is something I say all the time. I have an e-commerce store, and I have a t-shirt that says honor your inspiration, and people always say it to me. It's one of my catchphrases. And the next one is overcoming fear. So it's so important that you overcome fear. And there are so many common fears that creatives have and content creators have. And really, it's really about overcoming those and not being self-critical, not letting other outside criticism destroy you, and just kind of like knowing that you can weaponize self-belief to overcome fear. So knowing that no matter what anyone brings to you, you can always believe in yourself as your first line of defense. And the more people try to tear you down, the more you build yourself up. And it's just such an important thing to remember. And then building communities. So also, what does it take to build a community? And that part of our creative vision isn't just having inspiration and acting on an inspiration and having dreams and turning them into goals. It's really about the people we connect with and building community. If you're a writer, you want people to read your book, and it's important to make those connections. Also, if you're in the writing process, it's really powerful if you can connect with other writers, or if you're in Web3 or creating an NFT project, you want to create with other artists and to collaborate and to understand better kind of like your process, the process of other people, and to feel less alone. When I first started writing, I felt so alone and I was suicidal, and I would never have imagined how many people I have connected with just through writing alone. And it's been so powerful for me to know that I'm not alone in my process, and to literally experience hundreds of people who have the same experience that I do as writer. And again, there's nothing like it. It's it's so important to have community. And then also collaborate and share your vision. So it's once you create what your vision is, and which again, it takes that time to to go through your dreams, to make them into goals, to have a message, to honor your inspiration, to overcome that fear, weaponize self-belief, build community, and to collaborate. And that's really when it's the right time to share your vision. So again, it's so important to know where you're going and to know how to get there today. Okay, so here we go. This is probably the most technical part of this presentation, is the Twitter bio. So this is the most important tool for building your audience and engagement. This really asks the question, can your ideal follower trust you? So your bio is so important, because if people go to your page, it's the first thing they see about you. Sometimes they won't even look at your feed if they don't like your bio. And if they do like your bio, they might follow you even without looking at your feed. So again, sometimes it's not really about your feed, but it's your bio. And I'll get into this thing about quick ads. Like if you go to a list and you add people on the list based on preference, what the list is for, then you can just look at people's bio and see whether or not they're in your niche, and then follow the people who are in your niche, because that's really some good market research for you to be understanding what the people who are doing the same thing are as you, or the people you want to reach, what they're tweeting, what they're thinking about, what they're investing in. So your bio should have your identity. So if you call yourself a writer, if you call yourself an NFT artist, this is about who you are, and put that there. And then community. So if you're part of a community, some people will put writing community. Again, like have in mind like your niche and put that in there. Kind of like, it's so important to have people understand within reading your bio who you are and how you're going to serve them. And again, I know on other platforms, people say put in how you're going to serve people. I really don't think that's really like the place for Twitter. I think Twitter, it's not so much about saying how you're going to serve someone. It's about saying who you are, and people will understand from who you are if following you will serve them. So again, that's why it's so important. If you talk about a community, then if they're part of that community, they're going to say this is relevant to me, and hit that follow button. And then values. So this is something a lot of people put in there just because you want to attract people who have the same values as you. And platforms. So you should be doing self-promotion here. If you have other platforms or other accounts, make sure to put them in your bio so that people can check out your other stuff. Specifically, if you're getting, the more followers you have, the more you want people to kind of cross-pollinate your platforms. So yeah, again, it's so important with the bio to remember this, that repelling the wrong people is just as important as attracting the right people. So you really want to be attracting the right people, and those first 10,000 can all be people in your niche, and can all be people who are attracted to your profile for the right reasons. And again, that's how you're going to have people converting to, whether it's your collections or your books, that's how you're going to have people convert to your services or products. So there's it when you're looking for other people's profiles, you want to look for their niche. You want to look to follow market leaders, because even if you don't know what to tweet yet, you could be following market leaders just to retweet them. And I'll talk about the power of the quote tweet. So just keep that in mind. Okay, develop your voice. So developing your voice is about authenticity and clarity. What does your voice sound like? How do you show up for others? And how do you show up for yourself? So again, this is not about losing ourselves to an audience so that we can somehow serve them. It's so important that we are being ourselves, that we are showing up for ourselves, and that we are getting out as much as we give. And I think a lot of the times people often in this idea of compromising your values to polarize people and gain more of a following faster. It's not something that I would advise anyone to do. And I think it's so important to authentically and clearly articulate who you are and develop your voice so that you can attract the people who are going to be a part of your community. I'll give you an example of this. So I was in like the 3,000 range, and someone had said to me when we argued that they believed that I was not worthy of the followers that I had. And this deeply impacted me, and I felt so wounded. And, I started showing up in my tweets, not as a person I was who gained those 13,000 followers, but I felt unworthy of them because this person told me that was how they saw me, and I allowed it to be the way I saw myself. And I started showing up unworthy. I started showing up in ways that I felt wounded, and my tweets were visibly different. And someone messaged me and asked me about it, and that's when I realized I haven't at the time I wasn't gaining followers for the time that my voice changed. And it was really impactful when I realized that, and I went back and I looked at what's the difference between how I'm showing up now and how I was showing up then. And again, I realized a lot of my tweets in the time where I felt unworthy, they were selfish tweets. I wasn't tweeting to give people an experience that they felt was valuable. I was tweeting because I felt wounded and I was looking to nurse my own wounds. And I looked back at my timeline and I saw when I felt worthy and when I was growing, and my voice was really a voice of gratitude. And it was so powerful to recognize that I feel most myself and I feel at peace when I am speaking from a place of gratitude. And I immediately switched that. I recognized that I was feeling unworthy as a result of internalizing some criticism that I received from someone. And I showed up that way. And I realized that it was my choice to develop my voice again and to bring out my authentic voice of gratitude and to be clear in my language to express gratitude fully. And that was when I started growing again. And it's been really impactful and powerful. And I went from, at that time, 3,000, and I've reached 18.5 thousand today. So it depends when you see this, what my count is. But it's just so important to recognize that sometimes we have feelings of feeling unworthy, and then we can't show up for other people because we've actually abandoned ourselves. So again, I think you probably signed up for this and you did not expect it to go that deep into the mindset of it. But I'm telling you, authenticity and clarity is something that growing on Twitter will demand of you, because people want to see the real you. And specifically on Twitter, like, you're not hiding behind images, you're not hiding behind perfectly aesthetic photos. It's something that it's really who you are and it's what you bring to the platform. And I think it's one of the most authentic places to really grow online. And specifically, it's really big for writers and Web3. So just keep that in mind. So here we have develop your platform. So the thing that's beautiful about Twitter is that it has all these features, and really when you want to reach more people, it's so important that you have a platform where you're producing content and that your Twitter is a part of your platform. So here are some ways that you can develop your platform. So external links to blogs and videos. So if you have a YouTube channel, post the links to your YouTube channel. If you have a blog, post a link to your blog. And again, it's so important that you can blog on WordPress for free and you can upload videos to YouTube for free. So again, these are not things that are costing you anything. And even when I mentioned Linktree, that's a free service. So it's so important that you recognize that you don't have to invest a lot of money to get started in this. And I'll just give you an example. When I first started, I had a poetry platform and I started to feature poets on my platform. And I would do a poet interview and it was over email. And it was really important that it was over email because I had severe anxiety and I could not imagine interviewing someone. Now I have a podcast, so things have really changed, and I've really grown from my anxiety and I've grown through it. And it's something that I think allows me to put more effort and energy into it. And I wouldn't trade my anxiety for anything. I am so grateful for it. And I think it's something that has allowed me to put care into what I do, because I understand that some people might have irrational fears or concerned or feel anxious about putting themselves out there. And I completely understand that. And I've actually worked through that myself. So if you feel like you need extra help, just set up a clarity call. I have free clarity calls that are available, and you can just sign up for it in my Calendly. It's at the link in my bio. It's also, I'll put the link in the show notes under this YouTube video. So just know that you are not alone, and that you're not the only one who has struggled or had fear to put themselves out there. And again, I think it's all part of the process, and it's all part of a message that you can share with the world. And it's a journey that is beautiful and that really can allow you to connect with people who have been through similar things. So the second thing is quote tweets with commentary. So you can do this thing called a quote tweet. So if you retweet, it's just that person's tweet and it shows that you retweeted it, but it doesn't have anything written from you. So if you quote tweet, you see the tweet of the original author, but then you also see above it your commentary on it. So this is something that anyone can do. Once you pick a niche, you can follow market leaders, and you can build a really solid profile, an interesting and value adding profile, by just retweeting market leaders and by putting your commentary on it. People are interested in other people's opinions, and especially if it's relevant to them, they want to know how people see or where people stand on an issue. So do not be afraid to take a stance. Do not be afraid to share your opinion. Even if you receive hate, it's so important to repel the wrong people and to attract the right people. And then the next thing is repurposing other content. So if you have an Instagram account and you have a video, you can put a video on Twitter. And it's so important that you recognize that the more you create unique content, the more reasons for someone to follow you. And again, it's not that the more unique content you create, anyone will just follow you. The people it's relevant for will see a reason to follow you. So again, don't feel like you need to reach 1 million followers and have like a tweet go viral so that you can feel more confident in yourself. Again, it's just so important that you're not looking for that virality, and that you're actually looking for slow growth and connection. And we'll get deeper into real connections later, but I think it's so important that people recognize that you're really experiencing who you are and who other people are through this platform, and that you can take content from other places and put it here. Like, again, like links to blog posts, articles. If you have graphics, you can post a graphic you created, and that's all different ways you can impact people. So just remember that developing a platform is important, because you want people to have a clear image of who you are, and for you to almost be like a thought leader in whatever space you decide to occupy, because it's so important that people feel like they're going to learn something from you, or that they're going to be entertained from you, and that they feel like they've gained something from looking at your profile or from following you. Okay, so this is probably one of the most impactful sections. So your message. What is your message? Who are you creating for? So sometimes you can feel like maybe I don't want to show up today. And you just need that extra little push that maybe someone needs to hear what you have to say, and to push yourself to create when you feel like you can easily lose momentum. And this is important because if you feel like you're speaking to someone, people will receive it like you're speaking to them, the people who resonate with that message. So I get messages sometimes about people saying they feel like I was speaking directly to them. And again, like, I think it's like you have to do a lot of work on what do you think someone needs to hear, and also knowing your audience and having an ear, like social listening, by like actually following people who follow you so that you can serve them with valuable content, because you know what the questions they're asking, you know what they're going through, you know the process the journey and the process, like, and where they are in the journey and the process. So again, social listening is something that's important. And I really believe you should follow people who follow you. Again, once you grow past a certain point, sometimes it's very challenging to follow everyone who follows you. Or if you do a writer's lift, it's challenging to follow back everyone. And Twitter does have limits. I don't think it has a limit over like the maximum total. Like, I see people who are following 76,000 people, and there's just limits between how many people you can follow in a given time frame. So like, for instance, some people will hit the max, and then the next day they'll hit the max, and they'll hit the max. And again, there aren't really many repercussions. You can, if you're growing, you can hit the max. And sometimes all you need is to follow someone so that they see you in their notifications, and they can look at your profile and follow you back. So again, remember that is important. And again, them following you back is a decision when they look at your profile. So making sure that you have content on your profile that is relevant, and then also making sure that you have a Twitter bio that describes who you are, and through your messaging shows who you serve and how you can serve people. So when I talk about legacy, there's really two levels of legacy. Level one, what would a person think about you after experiencing your creative work? So every time you put out a tweet, like, what would someone think if they read this tweet? And what do they think? Like, what do they think about you? So this is something important to think about, because in being authentic and clear, you have to have an image of who you are and know how you're presenting yourself in your tweets. And again, this will allow you to determine if something should be deleted, if something should be edited, if something should be just like, you should put a comment on it so that you can clarify what you meant, things like that. Because if you know how you want people to see you, and again, it has to be real, it has to be authentic. You can't have people see you in a way that is not who you truly are. Like, it's so important to have all of that aligned, and just be conscious of how you impact people. So again, if I would say, I'm really not a fan of polarizing people. So sometimes I really ask myself, would someone think that I am unkind when I tweet this? And I am rather kind as a person, so it's not something that I feel like I always have to think about. But I mean, sometimes when I'm really passionate about something, I can sometimes write things in a way that could ostracize certain people or alienate people, and that's never my intention. So like, I am aware that it's important to ask yourself these questions. And the level two is, what would a person think about themselves after experiencing your creative work? So how would someone feel about themselves after they see your tweet? So this is so important, because so much of the time, like, I think we think about how are we presenting ourselves online, and we're intentional about that. And I think people really talk about that, and that's something people really master. And I think it's that second level to this part of legacy that I think people don't master, and I think people don't think about enough, is how would someone feel about themselves? And that's really the zone that I create from, because I always think, like, who do I want to reach? Who is this for? And what's that exact message that they need right now? And, I really think about that. And that's how I present my work, whether it be a blog post, any post, a tweet. But it's so important that you recognize that there are levels to how you present yourself and levels to how you connect with people. So it's that second part that shows if you're connecting with people in an authentic way. If you're constantly tweeting things that make people feel bad about themselves, that is not something that's going to allow you to have a strong community or a healthy community. So just being aware of that. So engagement. So I think a lot of the times people underestimate the importance of engagement, and I'm really going to go through this because there's just some clear things that are so important to do. You need to follow and engage with people. So make the first move. Do not be afraid to comment on someone's tweet, specifically if there's an engagement question, if there's something like show your work, put your work there, engage with people. This is your opportunity to connect. And that's really how you gain a lot of followers and how you make those real connections, because so many people feel alone on their journey, and social media is about connecting with people so that we don't have to feel alone anymore. And we know that we can share resources, and we know that we can learn from each other, and that we can really grow together in community and through serving each other. So like and retweet all relevant information. So again, like, I think it's so important to build up your profile. If you haven't been tweeting, if your tweets are irrelevant to your niche, like, it's so important that you realize that you can build your profile very easily by like actually retweeting all relevant information. So quote tweet is so important, and just liking people's tweets will put you in their notifications. And once people see you a lot in their notifications, there's more of a likelihood that they will follow you. So again, people will get to know you through your engagement with them. And then quick ads. So I talk about quick ads, and it's kind of like if you go onto lists on Twitter and you check like a list, say for poets, if you're in the poetry community, and you follow all the people whose obviously bio is something that you feel like would be a good match for you. And I did this a lot in the beginning. It was so important to my growth. I would find writers and I would find poets. And I think there were some NFT artists that I found through lists. And there are people who have lists, and it's just so important that you utilize what's already online, and you don't have to go searching for people and hunt people down to find someone who you think will follow you back. It's really about building your content yourself, so that all you have to do is just create an awareness that you exist, and you can do that through engaging with people, through liking things. And also, just it's important when you're engaging with people that when you engage with people, they will start to like your content because they understand who you are and they get a clear image of you and they can trust you. So it's so important that you are recognizing that liking and retweeting and having real connections is a part of the process, and you can't do that without engaging. So again, just really consider engaging, and you can look on Twitter and check your analytics. It's an in-depth process, but you can check your analytics and see kind of like what are your top performing tweets and things like that. And you can reuse tweets like if it's been like a couple months. And again, when you're on the path to growing, a lot of the times you can kind of repurpose content because you will have more followers, so there will be new people who haven't seen your tweet before, people who didn't engage with it last time. So just keep that in mind, that the more you do it, the easier it becomes. Okay, so the very last part of this is that when you are on Twitter, if it's not a bot, you have to recognize that these are real people. Every profile of a real person is a real person, someone who has feelings, someone who is discovering their self-worth, someone who has dreams, someone who has goals. And again, reminding yourself that these are people, even if someone sends you criticism or hate, just a reminder that this is someone with a beating heart, and that they have their own trauma that they're working through. They have their own insecurities. And I would say absolutely block someone if they are sending you hate, or if they are engaging you in a way that you are not comfortable with. Do not feel guilty for blocking anyone. It's a part of the process. And in that like 0 to 10,000 range, it's so important that you're protecting your community. So if someone is disrespectful to you, they will be disrespectful to your followers. And that is something that is not fair to your followers, and it is not fair to the community. So remember that you're building a community and that you have to protect the community. So do not feel guilty blocking someone who does not serve the community and blocking someone who is disrespectful. So again, in terms of real connections, I got to really get to know people through over email interviews, and then later through coaching them through Zoom, and also Artistic Spirit, my podcast. I interviewed people for my podcast, and that was so powerful in just getting to know people. And like Clubhouse used to have rooms and spaces is really kind of like a great place, specifically in Web3. You will see people on spaces who are ready to engage with you, who are excited to connect with people and talk about this topic. So again, do not feel fearful. Like, go on spaces and raise your hand to speak if it's available, and request it. It's not something that should feel fatal. It's something that should feel maybe anxiety provoking or nerve inducing. And you see that as a stepping stone. So you train yourself. I feel anxiety to put myself out there, and you know that that is a part of the process that never goes away. It's a stepping stone to connection. So you feel anxiety, you do it anyway, and you get rewarded by connection and understanding other people and connecting with people and bonding with people. And again, it's so important that a lot of these things you see as a part of the process and a stepping stone, because you have to have a long-term mentality and realize that obstacles are there for you to overcome them, to learn from them, and to connect with other people who are on the same path, and to also teach other people how to overcome the same things that you've overcome. And that can be a part of your message. So DMing people relevant content. So I would say you don't really want to go into people's DMs if there's not a purpose for it. You can very easily lose a lot of time that is not allowing you to build your profile, that is not allowing you to reach more people by DMing people just to have a conversation. Again, if you have something that in spaces where you have something in common and you want to talk about that in the DMs, that's connection. But if you're just messaging someone hi and you have no purpose for why you want to message someone hi, it's not something that's going to be beneficial, because if you're doing that with so many people, it's not something that is going to allow you to reach more people. You have to have things be relevant. And if you comment on something and you say, oh, I'll send you the link in DM, or if you're having a conversation with someone and it gets personal, you can send them a DM if you don't want what you're saying to be public. But again, just be aware that the things you send people, they can always save it and share it. So just be treating people with respect and kindness, and to be aware that being on social media is something that is a very public. So just being conscious of that is something that will allow for you to have more courage in what you're doing. So the second thing is respond to what people are putting out there, especially the quote tweet within the niche. So do not underestimate the power of a quote tweet. It is something that shows who you are. You can give an opinion, you can show your values, you can stand up for something, and you can stand your ground in a tweet. And this is how people know whether or not they want to be a part of your community. And again, I think it's really important that people do not underestimate the power of the quote tweet. And sometimes we can say, oh, I'm not original enough to come up with a tweet. And it's not even about that. You can quote tweet, and that's a solid profile, just quote tweeting, because you're giving your take on something. And that is reason enough for someone to follow you if they are interested in your take. And the very last thing is show personality and be respectful. Use hashtags to connect with the community. So know your community's hashtags. It is important in the beginning. The first 3,000, it's very important to use hashtags and to get that exposure. So again, just be aware of that. And you have to have a strategy for kind of like all of your thresholds. So just know that like the first 1,000 are the hardest, and the more followers you gain, the more people will follow you, and the more you produce content, the better your content will be. And just have faith in yourself, because it's so important that you share your message with the world. So I hope you learned a lot, and feel free to schedule a 30-minute clarity call with me, or you can DM me. I would love to hear from you. And just again, keep it relevant. So say that you watched this, and if you have a question, ask the question. So everyone on social media wants to make the most of their time. So just remember that and be conscious of that, and intentional with your messages, and intentional with how you present yourself and how you are positioning people to see themselves in your tweets. So have a fun time creating. Thank you.